Hello and welcome to our annual New Choices Recovery Center staff safety and wellness training. I'm Anna Hauser. We're going to get started talking a bit about the chemistry of fire and fire safety specifically. Fire burns because there are three elements present, and those elements are fuel, heat, and oxygen. By removing any one element, a fire cannot occur, or the fire will not be able to sustain combustion. So important to think about those three elements when we're discussing fire safety. Fire prevention practices, we want to keep the passageways and exits in all of our programs clear at all times. Ensure that fire extinguishers and fire alarm pull stations are always accessible. Place trash in proper receptacles. Ensure that fire doors are not being blocked open or closed. Don't overload outlets. Limit our use of power strips. If at any point in any of our programs you see concerns with any of these areas, please work with your supervisor to remedy. Reminder that our agency has a no smoking policy, which means that smoking by anyone, including participants, visitors, or any staff, is prohibited inside the buildings. At New Choices, all tobacco products and breathalyzers are not permitted to be on any agency property or in agency vehicles. In the last 40 years, fire has gotten much faster in terms of the spread because of modern synthetic materials, furniture. Fire is up to 7 times faster. So important for us to think about the rate at which fire can spread. When we're discussing fire safety, compared to 40 years ago, where someone might have 17 minutes to escape a fire, we now have about 3, which makes our fire safety protocols especially. A reminder that we're not able to allow electric bikes indoors at any of our programs, which includes garages as well as agency vehicles. This is because e-bikes pose a significant fire safety risk due to the batteries. Please work with the participants to identify alternatives if they use e-bikes as a means of transportation. We want to plan for fire emergencies, which includes reading and understanding the fire evacuation plan for your specific building and workspace. Please know the location of at least 2 emergency exits. Know the location of fire alarm pull stations and fire extinguishers. Make sure that you're taking part in fire drills and understand the fire drill location and protocol for your location. If you have any questions about any of these areas, please discuss with your supervisor the plan for your specific workspace. In case of a fire, we want to remain calm, don't panic or cause confusion, never shout fire, proceed safely to the nearest fire exit, feel surfaces of doors before opening, crawl to an exit if smoke is present in the area, and follow the instructions of the fire department once they arrive. Some acronyms that can be helpful for fire safety. One is RACE, R, rescue anyone in immediate danger, if you're able to do so safely. A, activate the fire alarm pull station. C, contain the fire only if safe. And E, extinguish the fire, again, if your safety can be assured. Another one is PASS. This is for fire extinguisher use. P for pull the pin. A for aim at the base of the fire. S for squeeze the handles together. S for sweep from side to side. Reminders about fire drills. These are conducted every quarter in each of our programs. We want to respond immediately as if an actual fire is happening, remembering those RACE and PASS acronyms. Remember to usher participants to the planned evacuation location and make sure that all participants and staff have made it to the evacuation location. If you have an attendance or sign-in sheet, make sure to check in with that information to be sure that we've gotten everyone outside. And after our fire drills, we want to have discussions about any corrective action if applicable. If you see any potential safety hazards, please notify Jim Murray, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, or you can speak with your supervisor. Which brings us to our conversation about staff wellness and de-escalation. I think all of us at some point in time, probably numerous times, have encountered a participant that was escalated or a visitor that came into the building. One of the first questions we want to stop and think about is, what do you need to feel supported when you are feeling angry or upset? And using this perspective to approach the participant in a way where we consider, why is this person so upset? What needs are they perceiving or not being met, and approaching them from that space rather than focusing purely on their behavior can be helpful in terms of us working productively to de-escalate a client. Part of that is thinking about what are our own triggers as human beings, what we need sometimes to de-escalate ourselves first, considering taking a breath, asking for help, noticing what your own buttons are that escalate you. And sometimes if a participant approaches us in a way that triggers our own response, that can impact the success of the interaction. So really important to be aware of what that looks like and thinking about how you can support yourself in the moment. Thinking about what are some barriers to positive reactions and outcomes. As part of this presentation, we've provided a dealing with an escalated person handout that references a lot of these points and breaks down some specific strategies, examples of what can lead to a positive or potentially negative outcome when we're managing a de-escalated participant. But some potential barriers are reacting with anger, blaming, defensiveness, sometimes being preoccupied or in a hurry, which can be really challenging, as at certain points someone might present in an escalated space when you're running to and from appointments and have a lot on your to-do list. It can be really difficult to stop and bring yourself to the moment and approach that person with what they need. So thinking about the barriers that are very real that we encounter and how we can use our supervisor, our colleagues, how we can all support each other in managing these situations so that we can help identify solutions for the participant. Some specific communication strategies that can support someone in de-escalating would include really active listening, keeping a neutral facial expression, not reacting outwardly to what they're saying to you to the best of your ability, focusing on using a calming, soothing tone, especially as their tone and presentation might escalate. Being mindful about the environment where the interaction is taking place. If it's safe for a staff to do so, potentially moving the participant from a more public space like a waiting area to an office or a group room, again, keeping in mind the safety of the staff and the participant, having two people in the same room with a participant if needed, and framing that in a way of providing support, but not involving more people than we need to. These are some just general communication strategies that can be helpful in supporting an individual. Trying not to be judgmental, using statements such as, I want to help you, please help me understand, so that we can come up with a plan. Let's ask what so-and-so thinks about this situation so that we can help you, can be a way to introduce a second staff member that doesn't put the participant on the defense. And again, really also taking into consideration the safety of everyone involved. So asking for help is very important whenever we have conversations about safety. We have created this universal phrase to be used at all New Choices Recovery Center locations, which is, please tell Dr. P I'm going to be late for the meeting. You want to use this phrase if you're in a situation where you need to call 911 and to describe to somebody what's happening. To prompt the need to call 911 would potentially escalate the individual involved, and you want a way for 911 to be called without getting into details about the situation. So if you hear a colleague say this, you should call 911, notify supervisors who can go and assist the individual who has called and activated using this phrase. Again, really trying to make sure that 2 staff are present with a participant that's escalated whenever possible, while also avoiding crowding. If you need to firmly set limits or call for help with a participant, doing this respectfully and calmly, and also making sure that the front desk of the location you work at is aware where the first responders need to be directed once they arrive in the building, in order to keep everything as calm and safe for all participants. Another factor to keep in mind is clearing other participants out of spaces such as the lobby if needed to fully create a safe space to assist the escalated individual that is in need of more support. And in any situation like this, it's really important for us as a team to be able to have a space to debrief and process anything that's come up with the staff. So please never hesitate to go to your supervisor to discuss a situation that's taken place. If you have suggestions or feelings about how a situation might have been handled differently, that's also a really good conversation to have with your supervisor. So in this difficult, rewarding, wonderful work that we do, our own wellness is a huge part of the conversation. So thinking about what each of us need individually in order to take care of ourselves and how we can implement that into our work is an important part of this training. The idea of self-care is something that we talk about really frequently with each other and with our participants, but it's important to consider, what does that really mean for you? What tells you that you're struggling with self-care? What does your self-care plan actually look like? What feels realistic? Thinking about how we can help each other maintain self-care and really making ourselves a priority in our lives so that we can continue to do the work that we do. Thinking about different elements of self-care, oftentimes we say things like yoga or journaling or deep breathing are aspects of self-care, and they certainly are for some people. Self-care is unique to each of us as individuals, but wanting to take a look at some of the deeper layers of self-care that we can tap into to really support ourselves. So areas such as physical, emotional, practical, sensory, social, mental, spiritual, and personal, taking a look at all of those layers when we think about self-care for ourselves and our colleagues. Some strategies to boost our well-being that we can start today would be to check in with yourself, to really take that frequent inventory of this emotional space that you're presenting with at any given moment, any given day, and really managing our energy reservoirs. So taking a look at where our energy levels are at the beginning of the day, the middle, the end, focusing on what we might need as a reflection of that. Another area to focus on is paying attention to the way we talk to ourselves. This is often a conversation that we have with our participants pretty frequently, but also asking ourselves, what is my narrative? What is the story I'm telling myself about my day today? Taking a look at how our perspective impacts the way we feel and our general well-being. Some tips to avoid burnout, which can really impact us at various points in time, especially when self-care is difficult, but focusing on what we can control, understanding that burnout is a stress-induced condition, dealing with the cumulative nature of stress and burnout. So thinking about how self-care and wellness is not something that we do once or twice, but something that we do on an ongoing basis in order to really be able to sustain our emotional energy for our work. Considering the effects of both distress and psychological stress, thinking about how different types of stress can impact us and how we need to approach that can look a bit different. Changing your mindset towards stress. One thing that I do is, if I'm finding myself really struggling with a lot of stress about maybe a difficult or challenging interaction with a client or with a staff member, I'll try to shift my mindset towards thinking about the fact that that individual shared something really significant with me and feeling gratitude that I got to have that interaction with someone rather than carrying stress about the interaction. Accepting that some stress can enhance performance can be motivating. Stress doesn't always mean something negative, and it's important for us to evaluate how different types of stress are showing up for us in our work. Stop multitasking. This is a very tricky one. I know with everything we have to do, multitasking has a lot of appeal to it, but focusing on how that can actually lead to burnout rather than helping us to get tasks done. So trying to focus on one task at a time as much as you're able to. Not allowing yourself to feel alone or isolated, really using your unique support system, using your colleagues, using your supervisor. We have supervision available for all staff as well as our team meetings and supports. So really making sure that you're accessing that connection. Implementing meaningful self-care, as we've touched on, and also embracing what you're passionate about, reminding yourself of what you love about your job. You know, if you have a moment with a participant or with a colleague that leaves you feeling really positive, maybe write it down or make note of it to bring yourself back to that space of positivity and passion to come back to. Just a reminder that our employee assistance program is available 24/7 to support any employee as well as their immediate family. So please access that resource if it would feel beneficial to you at any point. It's completely confidential. New Choices doesn't receive details about who's accessing the EAP, so that's a resource that everyone has available to them. Please also don't hesitate at any point if you have questions about this presentation or the content discussed. Please contact me, your supervisor. We're all here to support each other and we appreciate everyone. Thank you.